Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to work a question on binomial distribution. The question is as follows. Find the probability that in 5 tosses of a fair die, a free will appear. First part, twice. Second part, at most once. Third part, at least 2 times. Before we can start the question on binomial distribution, the first thing to do is to define your random variable. In order to define a binomial distribution, you need two parameters which are n and p. So first thing, before you can find the probability, you have to ask yourself, what has been given in the question? Have you been given an n? Yes. So we can see that in 5 tosses of a fair die. So we can see here our n is equal to 5. The next parameter is p, that is the probability of success. So here we need to identify this value of p. It says a free will appear. Now, when we toss a fair die, what is the probability of obtaining a free? Now, be careful. It says a fair die. It means each event is equally likely to occur. So, what is the probability of obtaining a free when you toss a fair die? This is pretty much easy. So, this probability of obtaining a free is going to be 1 over the total number of outcomes, say 6. Now, once we know the value of n and the value of p, we can define the distribution. We can write the distribution. So we are going to say, let x, now you can use any variable, x, y, or z. So we're going to use x follows bin, since we are dealing with a binomial distribution. Now we need the n, so x follows bin 5, and then the probability of obtaining a free, which is 1 over 6. Now once you've defined your distribution, you can carry out the different probabilities. You can find the different probabilities, because without the distribution you will not be able to find the probabilities. So first thing, the distribution. Now the first part says a free will appear twice. So you're asked to find what? The probability of getting a free 2 times. So of getting x is equal to 2. So next line we're going to write. Now what is the formula for finding probability in a binomial distribution? So we're going to see, it says NCR. Our n here is 5. So we're going to have 5C2. And then p power r, so which is 1 over 6 power 2 multiplied by q. Now if you know the value of p, which is 1 over 6, you can find the value of q, because we know that when we add the probability of success with the probability of failure, we should get 1. So if you know the value of p, you will be able to find the value of q. So q is going to be 1 minus 1 over 6, which is q is equal to 5 over 6. So we're going to have 5 over 6 power n minus r, which is 5 minus 2, which is 3. Now if you add the two powers here, you should get n, the total, which is n, which is 5. Now, once you've written this formula, you've applied the formula, you can use calculator to get the answer. So, in my previous video, I've shown how to use calculator when finding probabilities using NCR. So, let's see. So, we are going to, so for me, it's easy. When I work it backward, I can see I can find it easily than use from forward to here. So let's see. So we are going to have, okay, so open bracket 5 over 6 close bracket power 3 is equal to multiply by 1 over 2 close bracket to the square is equal to multiply by 5c2 is equal to. Oh no, I've, instead of putting 1 over 6, I've put 1 over 2. Sorry about that. So let's do it again. Let's calculate it again. So we have 5 over 6 power 3 multiply by 1 over 6 to the square multiply by 5c2. So the answer should be 0.161 to 3 significant figures. 0, 1, 6, 1. So the answer is okay. This was part A. Now part B. At most 1. Now in statistics, 2 things you have to always remember. When it says at most, it always means less or equal to. When there is at least, it means greater or equal to. So you have to remember these 2 things in order to get the probabilities correctly. Okay, so moving on to the second part. You're asked to find at most 2. So you will need to find what? The probability of x is less or equal to 2. Now, we need to compute several probabilities here. Now, if you're confused with which value to include in this probability, let's take a number line. It's going to be easier for you to understand. Now, you have to remember in a binomial distribution, since it is a discrete distribution, we are going to start with 0. Now, our n here is 5. So, basically, it's going to start from 0 to 5. So, in between, we're going to have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Now, you're asked to find less or equal to 2. Now, it is less or equal to 2. So, it means 2 is included, right? Now, we need to find the less values of 2. So, this is going to include the probability of what? Of x is equal to 0 plus the probability of x is equal to 1 plus the probability of x is equal to 2. Now, to get the answer correctly, in order to get the probability correctly, I will suggest that you calculate for each probability and then you calculate each probability and then you add. Don't try to do it at one time. You will definitely make mistake, right? So we are going to find for x is equal to 0. So here my r is 0, here my r is 1, here my r is 2. So let's work out for this one first. So it's going to be 5c0, 1 over 6 power 0, 5 over 6 power 5 plus, now this one, it's going to be 5c1, 1 over 6 power 1, and then 5 over 6 power 4 plus 5c2 times 1 over 6 power 2 times 5 over 6 power 3. So once you've written all the probabilities, you can just use calculator and then get the value. So I will let you do this part, and then we can continue with the third part. So you can pause this video and then use your calculator to get the value. Okay, so I'm just going to give you the answer for this one. So if you use your calculator, you're going to get 0.4019 plus 0.4019 plus the last one, which we already calculated in first part, 0.161. It's going to be, now you can take up to 2 dB. So we lost for the first part, I think you got 0 something 07, so you can use 0.7, and then the answer should be 0.965. Okay, so I've checked this one again. So it was 0.16075. So here it's going to be 0.8. So if you want to have an exact value up to 3 decimal places, I would suggest you write your working values 2 decimal places more, or even 1. Okay, so this is the answer for the second part. Now moving on to the last part, which is part C. Okay, part C says at least 2 times. So for this probability, you will need to find what? The probability of what? X is greater or equal to 2. So again, with the number line, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. At least 2. It means it has to be greater or equal to 2. So again, equal to 2. And then this time it has to be greater than 2. Now, greater than 2. So we are going to include what? Probability of X is equal to 2 plus probability of X is equal to 3 plus the probability of X is equal to 4 plus probability of X is equal to 5. Now, if you have a larger number for n, you can proceed another way, which is, now you can see that the probability that you need will be from what? From 2 to 5, which means the 0 and the 1 is not included, which means that instead of calculating for x2, x3, x4, x5 and then you add, you can see it easier is you can remove this. How can we remove this? We know that the sum of all probabilities is what? Is 1. Now 1 minus what? Which two values we do not need, which is 0 and 1. So we do not need the value for probability of X is equal to 0. And then we do not need the probability of X is equal to 1. So you will see, if you take 1 and then you subtract the probability of X equal to 0 and the X equal to 1 from the 1, you are going to get this probability, right? So you can do either this method, you can do this way or this way. So it's up to you. And now it also depends on the value for n. Here you can see that we have up till 5. So it is not going to be difficult, but it's going to take a longer time than this one. Suppose you had up till 10. Would you take 2 to 10? It's going to take a lot of time, right? So instead you can minus the probability that you do not want. So here you can see that 1 minus. So here again you write the probability here. So let's do it quickly. So we can have 5C0, and then we have what? 1 over 6 power 0, and then 5 over 6 power 5 plus 5C 1 over 6 power 1, 5 over 6 power 4. Now since we've already calculated this probability and this probability in second part, you can just use the answer. So here we have 1 minus, so the answer we got for x0 is 0.4019 plus again 0.4019. So you add these two and then you take 1, subtract the value. So here you should get, the answer should be right, so the answer should be 1 minus, so the total is 0.8 0.8037, okay, 6, and then you subtract, we're going to get 0.196. Okay, so this was the question. This was a question on the binomial distribution. This is one of the easiest questions that we can have in this distribution. So before I stop this video, one thing I would like to point out, there was two things that I needed to correct. Was when I used the calculator to find this probability. So instead of putting 1/6, I've put 1/2 in the calculator. So I corrected that. And then there was here. So since we had 0.16075, so since we have a number 5 here, we need to add 1 here. So that's why it's going to be 0.1608. So there was two things that I needed to clarify before I end this video. So I hope you've understood this question. I will come back with more questions. Hope you've find this video helpful. Thank you for watching this video and see you soon. Bye bye.